Hey guys, everybody, so good day, this video finally here is a video reaction, yeah, so before the video, right, so we're gonna make sure to thumbs up, and then don't forget to subscribe, prepare the notification on, and then get everyone, please get 100k subscribers, and hang up with everyone. So anyway, so today we're going to do another reaction video of JTVideos, my favorite YouTuber. So today we're going to reaction his Rebooted MCU CS4 Part 3, which could be a Doctor Strange Mutationmania, something like that. Can't remember the spell name. So yeah, so next that's a reaction. So we're going to do next reaction.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Rebooted MCU. Today we are here with Phase 4 Part 3. And this is a big episode for a lot of reasons. Of course, if you saw by the title of what this project is, you already know what's coming. So I'm not going to keep you guys much longer from what you all want to see. So let's go ahead and jump right into Rebooted MCU Phase 4 Part 3. The third project in Rebooted MCU Phase 4 is Doctor Strange Mutationmania. The movie opens in a classroom at Bard College, located in New York.
Oh no, guys.
Students writing down notes to see a man talking.
Back. Doesn't mean now. There you go. It's me. Right, so Doctor Strange Mutationmania, that's how to spell.
Mutationmania. The movie opens in a classroom at Bard
Hold
College,
on,
located in New York. We see students writing down.
Okay, I don't need Hold on, guys. Sorry, guys. So if you hear something here, just annoy her. So yeah.
To see a man talking. As Charles Darwin once said, it's not the strength of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. With that being said, it's now time to dive deeper into how our external environment impacts our evolution. As the man says this, we hear a bell ring, and he continues, "Well, students, remember your exam is next Thursday. Please email me with any questions." As students begin to leave, we notice that the man is in a wheelchair. As he watches his students leave, we see an older woman in the back of the room walk towards him, and she says, "Professor Charles Xavier, it is an honor to have gotten to listen to your lecture this morning." The camera pans as a man in the wheelchair is revealed to be Bard College professor Charles Xavier, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who smiles and says, "Why, thank you, madam. May I inquire as to what your name is?" "My name is Professor Harkness. I'm a biology professor at the University of Massachusetts, and I actually wanted to ask you some questions about a research article you wrote a while back." Xavier motions for Harkness to follow him. As they exit the classroom, they head to Xavier's office. Professor Harkness is revealed to be none other than Agatha Harkness, played by Katherine Hahn, who says, "Professor, I was wondering if you could talk to me about your article regarding the X gene." Xavier stops.
If you think drinking water first thing is helping your skin, you might be wrong. Watch this. What will aid you the fastest?
The X gene? Oh my, Professor. That article was written a long time ago and was written off by the scientific community. Why on earth would you possibly want information about that? Well, Professor, I think you were onto something. I want to learn more about your research. We watch Xavier close his eyes and focus on Agatha. As we see him read her mind, we see that her brain is filled with destruction and chaos. As we see Xavier return to reality, we see him panting heavily as Agatha begins to scowl. "My deepest apologies, Professor Harkness. I believe I have a meeting to attend." As we see Xavier wheel away as fast as he can, we see Agatha huff and walk away. Watch as Xavier pulls out his phone as he wheels around the corner and dials a number. "Eric, we have a problem." As he says this, the title card pops up on screen and the classic X-Men cartoon theme begins to play. We cut to Camartage, where we see sorcerers being trained by Doctor Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who says, "Now students, watch me. I will now summon the Shield of the Seraphim." As we see Strange move his hands, the Shield of Seraphim appears, and he motions to a student to shoot a magic blast at him. As the student does this, the shield blocks the attack as the students stand in awe. "And that, my students," says Strange, "is the power of the Shield of Seraphim." Next class, we'll begin discussing the winds of Watum. Class dismissed. All the kids bow and say, "Thank you, Sorcerer Supreme Strange." As they walk away, we see a portal open, and Wong, played by Benedict Wong, walks out and says, "Strange, lunch is served. You know it is ancient tradition to bow every time you come into the presence of the Sorcerer Supreme." "Well, I just bought the Sorcerer Supreme his favorite hoagie with extra Italian." All is forgiven. As we see Strange walk through the portal, he returns to the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York, where we see Bruce Banner, played by Mark Ruffalo, sitting at a table, and he says, "Thank goodness, Strange, I'm starving." Strange laughs. "Wouldn't want to make you angry, Bruce. I've seen what happens when you're hangry." Bruce chuckles. "Yeah, and you wouldn't likely when I'm angry, more or less when I'm hangry." We see Strange, Wong, and Banner all catching up over lunch. Banner reminds Strange and Wong that he's going on a road trip with his cousin Jen in the next few weeks, and Wong tells Strange that he received an invite to Dr. Palmer's wedding. Strange chokes on his sandwich. "She's getting married?" Wong, "Man, I told you not to tell him while we're eating." Wong shrugs. "Well, I thought it would be easier to tell him now than make him wait to find out." As we see Strange look down at his hoagie, we hear a knock at the door as Strange stands up. "It is rude to force the Sorcerer Supreme to answer the door." Strange laughs. "Well, the Sorcerer Supreme is removing himself from this conversation before it gets any more awkward." We watch as Strange floats towards the door using the cloak of levitation. When he opens the door, we are greeted with Charles Xavier and an unknown man standing next to him. Hello, my name is Charles Xavier, professor at Bard College. I'm in need of your assistance. We see Strange, Wong, and Bruce sitting in a common area with Charles and the other man as Charles is explaining the X gene to the group. The X gene is a mutation that some humans have had since they were born. In ancient times, the X gene was used by our ancestors to help bring us fire, weapons for hunting, and all sorts of other advancements that helped shape humanity throughout its history. Unfortunately, the humans who lacked the X gene began feeling threatened by the advancements, and they began locking up those who possessed the gene, which caused the gene to become dormant in the offspring of our ancestors, not because it went away, but for the sake of survival. It was easier for the gene to remain inactive than for those who possessed abilities to risk the consequences of facing a society that did not accept their gifts. Bruce leans forward. Okay, and let's say I do believe that story about some genetic mutation that gave people the ability to create fire or meld their body into some sort of weaponry. What kind of proof do you have outside of stories? Why? Myself and my dear friend Eric here both house the X gene. The mutation has impacted our lives profoundly. It's actually how we met each other. As Bruce looks to the previously unknown man, he's revealed to be Eric Lencher, played by Jason Isaacs. Strange chuckles. And let's say I buy this. Then explain to me, how did you awaken this dormant gene of yours? Xavier pauses. I was experimented on as a young boy, tortured for my abilities, in an attempt to see how powerful they could manifest themselves to be. By a friend of my father's at the time, but my powers were not fully manifest until my father died. Then they truly showed themselves through my grief, my pain. It's what caused the X gene to unlock. Strange turns and looks at Eric, who leans forward. My grandparents were killed in concentration camps during World War II. My mother was old enough. She escaped Germany and brought me here to the States. Fortunately, anti-Semitism is not an exclusively German issue. I witnessed her getting beat to death when I was 8. It was something scarred into my brain that I will never forget for the rest of my life. I'm sorry, but if it's an emotionally scarring event that triggers a mutation, why have we not seen this happen before? I've been researching that very question, and from what I've gathered, it's that the powers Eric and I possess are considered to be more powerful than the average mutation. Bruce stands up. And what exactly is it that your mutation allows you to do? We watch as Charles closes his eyes, and we cut inside the head of Bruce Banner, where we see Hulk and Bruce standing inside a white-looking room when suddenly Charles Xavier appears inside with both Hulk and Banner looking shocked. I'm a telepath. I can read your thoughts and share mine with you. As we watch Banner snap back into reality, he looks over at Xavier, who smiles at him. Wong and Strange look at Banner, who says, He isn't lying. Wong looks at Eric and says, well, what about you? Eric stands up and we see him raise his hand. Suddenly an umbrella from an umbrella stand shoots up into the air and begins flying around the room and lands back into the umbrella stand as it started. Strange stands. So you believe that there is someone who's attempting to awaken this X gene across the globe? Xavier nods. Yes, through the use of witchcraft.
Reporting live to you from the Space Goods London headquarters. I've got some groundbreaking news to share with you, and it's nothing at all to do.
Well, there's someone who I want to talk with before we proceed any further. We cut to Agatha teleporting back into a dark room. She screams, Le Fay, Sefton, the common room immediately. We then watch as Morgan Le Fay, played by Aubrey Plaza, and Amanda Sefton, played by Amy Poehler, teleport in. What do you want, hag? Says Le Fay. Mind your tongue. I was unable to receive any additional information related to the X gene and how it can awaken the Heraldess of Chthon. Perhaps it is time we ask Chthon himself. He will be able to provide the guidance we need to find the answer. I agree with Sefton. We will need to consult the Darkhold to find the answer we are looking for. If the Darkhold really spoke to you as you claim it did, then Chthon is preparing to awaken his Heraldess. We best not prolong the awakening. He watches the witches gather around the Darkhold. As they join hands, Agatha speaks. O ancient Chthon, elder god of the universe, the master of dark magic, speak to us, your loyal subjects, so we may awaken the Scarlet Witch. As she says this, the room drops to a pitch black, and the Darkhold begins glowing as we hear a voice begin emanating from the book. My loyal subjects, I am Chthon. A voice by Kevin Michael Richardson. My soul is forever trapped inside this ancient book because of my sister Osther, but this book contains all of my teachings, the most ancient and dangerous of the dark magic spells. Only the Scarlet Witch, my Heraldess, is capable of using both dark magic and chaos magic in order to destroy the world and all life upon it, in order to start from scratch and make it more perfect. Perfect in my own vision. You must travel to the mountain of Wundagore. Use the research of the one called Wyndham. Get a single hair follicle of one with the gene, and perform the spell and utter the words, Awaken the mutant powers. Suddenly, we watch as a portal opens and Chthon continues. This leads to the mountain Wundagore. There you will find the research of the one called Wyndham, and the altar where you are to perform the spell. Wyndham was unable to unlock the X gene last time this book was found. Hopefully you three will fulfill my vision and my grand plan can commence. He watches a Darkhold falls to the ground, and Harkness, LeFay, and Sefton step through the portal after Harkness picks up the Darkhold. We watch the three step through onto Wundagore Mountain. We see that the mountain is covered in snow. There is an altar sitting in a place found on the side of the mountain, which appears to be a church of sorts. We see that there are shelves housing tons of files surrounding the inner area. We watch as Sefton walks over to one of the shelves and picks up a file which reads, The Next Step in Human Evolution. One step closer to the perfect society. The X gene and its implications. A study by Dr. Herbert Wyndham. We cut to the Baxter Building in New York City as we see Dr. Strange standing in the laboratory as we watch Reed Richards, played by Keanu Reeves, running tests on both Xavier and Lencher. Reed speaks up as he is watching his computer. So Bruce and Wong didn't want to come along this time, Stephen? Well, I told Wong to return to Kamartaj to begin looking at ancient books related to witchcraft and spells, and Bruce had to go meet with Dr. Cho this afternoon. Reed laughs. Witchcraft. I couldn't have believed in such a concept beforehand, but after watching you during that bout with Thanos, I must say my vast knowledge of science and engineering might not compare to the wonders that you're able to perform with your sorcery. Even if I still believe deep down there is a scientific explanation for it. Strange chuckles as he walks closer to Reed and asks, So, what are you gathering from these tests? Well, everything you told me that Professor Xavier claimed about the X gene appears to be true. It seems that this gene is only housed in certain people, and based on natural human evolution, it became dormant for the sake of survival. But once it's unlocked, its power is fascinating. Xavier's brain appears to be working overtime, but not only that, it emanates power, something I've never seen before, not at this level. Eric, however, is seemingly able to bend my instruments at his very will. His control over magnetism is truly remarkable. We watch as Reed begins taking the equipment he was using to run tests off of Charles and Eric. Strange looks at him and says, So Reed, based on your estimates, if this gene really is inside people lying dormant, how many people could gain these powers if this gene is able to be activated?
Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you can do whatever you want.
Millions. The gene itself is quite simple, really. It's not hard to imagine the genetic makeup of an individual being slightly altered and this gene being created as a result. Not to mention, based on what I can gather, this gene is hereditary, If an individual's parents had the gene, it's likely that the gene was passed down to their children. Reed pauses and looks at Charles and Eric. My question would be, why would it be such a bad thing for this gene to be awoken inside of people? Think of all the benefits it could bring to humanity. Eric scoffs. Yeah, I've seen how people react when something new they don't understand begins to become a regular part of their everyday life. I've seen how people react to people different than them before, and the last thing people like me need is to be socially ostracized based on their genetics, and I certainly shudder to think what would happen once the government gets involved. I have frequently argued with Eric on this point. I think society would accept mutants with open arms, especially if we work alongside humanity to help better the world. I think, thanks in large part to the heroes who saved the world from that alien invasion, people with powers are considered to be special, not different. One thing you're forgetting, Charles. All those heroes have an origin story. Mutants would not. Reed chuckles. Well, I leave the debating to the politicians. My brain likes to deal more with facts, and unfortunately, Stephen, I have a date downtown with Sue in 20 minutes, so I'm going to have to head out. I hope I was able to help and dispel any concerns you had about legitimacy of Dr. Xavier's work. Charles, Eric, it was an honor to meet you. Strange, Charles, and Eric nod, and Strange opens up a portal and looks at Charles and Eric. Come, we're going to Camartage. Let's see if Wong has found anything out about witchcraft. We cut back to Mount Wundagore, where we see LaFay and Sefton reading through Herbert Wyndham's files as Agatha looks through the Darkhold. LaFay groans. I've been alive for millennia, and this is by far the most boring thing I have ever read. Even worse than when Merlin taught me about the history of the Round Table. Sefton continues reading and responds, I don't disagree, but it makes you wonder. Why did Chthon fail if he had the help of a scientist as brilliant as this one? Agatha laughs. Isn't it obvious? He wasn't trained in magic. You can be as smart as humanly possible, but you will still be inadequate if you lack the powers necessary to accomplish your desires. Faye scoffs. Yeah, but even with your powers, you still haven't made any progress cracking that spell. Shut it, wench. It says we need a single follicle of hair from an individual containing the attribute we want to release, which is great, but how do we know who has the gene and who doesn't? Well, you know the old man in the chair is a mutant, but we have no clue where he is. Suddenly, the Darkhold begins to glow as Chthon speaks. My loyal subjects, I have eyes everywhere. The one who calls himself Charles Xavier is located at the mythical location of the Masters of the Mystic Arts. Travel there, complete the mission. Agatha stands up as LaFay looks at Sefton and says, Finish the research. Agatha and I will gather the hair follicle and return. We cut to Camartage, where we see Wong leading Strange, Xavier, and Lencher into the library. Strange speaks up and asks, Wong, what's with the rush? I think you are maybe a little too upset or eager about something. Strange, you have no idea what, or who, might be coming. We watch as Strange and Eric take a seat in the library, and Xavier rolls next to Eric as Wong begins. When Earth was created, there existed many gods who sought to help create a new and flourishing world. But the hierarchy was unstable. It led to war and chaos. The god Demogorg began a dark reign of terror and destruction, which was foiled when 4 of the most powerful elder gods teamed up to stop him. Set, the god of darkness and destruction. Chthon, the master of magic and the mystic. Gaia, the goddess of prosperity in the land. Finally, Ashtar, the goddess of life and light. The 4 of them went on to help create life on this earth and began a cycle of life and death. Eventually, Chthon became restless and felt that the gods had created something imperfect. Striving for more, he killed Set and began to use his darkness to create a powerful new form of magic. Dark magic. Chthon believed it was possible to start over and create a heraldess who would serve as the ruler of his new world, the Scarlet Witch. Chthon created a book called the Darkhold, where he kept all of his most sacred spells and incantations within, in hopes that it would lead to the Scarlet Witch being able to harness the most powerful of magic known to all reality. Chaos magic. Strange looks stunned. What happened? Ashtar was made aware of Chthon's plan and decided to team up with the first Sorcerer Supreme. Agamotto in order to stop his plan. Ashthor and Agamotto were able to defend the Earth against Chthon, but his dark magic allowed him to avoid death. Instead, Ashthor trapped Chthon's being inside the Darkhold, saving the world, but not defeating his influence, while Agamotto went on to teach the world Eldritch magic. The Darkhold was passed on to a woman named Evanora Harkness, the first witch, who used the book to create the first witches, in hopes of one day finding the Scarlet Witch and bringing Chthon's plan to completion. Eric looks at Wong. So you're telling me an evil god is attempting to unleash mutant kind in hopes of his destroyer of worlds appearing? Yes. Well, further reason as to why we can't let this happen. Charles, if you are still naive enough to believe mankind will blindly accept superpowered individuals who lack an explanation as to how they got their powers, I think you've truly lost your mind. Suddenly, we hear explosions outside of Kamar-Taj as we see Doctor Strange and Wong run outside. They come face to face with Agatha, who says, Sorcerer Supreme, we know you are harboring a mutant here. Turn him over, and the land of the Masters of the Mystic Arts will be allowed to remain intact. Not on your life. We then watch as Strange and Wong begin fighting Agatha Harkness. We cut inside the library where we see Morgan Le Fay teleport inside and attempt to grab a piece of hair off of Charles' head. As she does, we see Charles begin to use his telekinesis to affect Le Fay's head, which prevents her from moving. Out of rage, she looks at Eric, and as her eyes grow black, we see her read Eric's mind and view his memories. As we watch Eric faint, Charles goes to check on him as Le Fay teleports away. We cut and see Strange getting the upper hand on Harkness, who teleports away. We cut back to Mount Wundagore as we see a frustrated Agatha scream at Le Fay. You had one job, get a single piece of hair. Hold on. I was able to view the memories of that other man. His name is Eric Lensher. He's also a mutant, but more importantly, he has 2 children. Amanda cackles. According to Wyndham's research, the offspring of a mutant will also house the gene. Agatha begins to laugh. Perfect. Maybe you didn't fail after all, Morgan. Now, how about telling me where those children are located? We need to find a way to get to Iowa as quickly as we possibly can, screams Eric as we cut back to Kamar-Taj. Strange shakes his head. Iowa? What the heck could possibly be in Iowa? Eric, you have children? Why did you keep this secret from me? What did I tell you about reading my mind, Charles? When I moved here, met a girl, fell in love. She gave birth to twins. She died in childbirth. Once I realized that they would also potentially have mutant powers, I knew they could potentially be stronger than mine. I thought it would be best if they lived with someone other than myself, to avoid any potential of me doing anything to inadvertently unleash their powers. I sent them to live with a lady named Marcy Maximoff on a farm in Iowa. That witch saw my memories. I saw her so vividly inside my head. She's heading for my children. If she gets there before us, if she hurts my children, Strange glares. Wong, help the other sorcerers rebuild Kamar-Taj. I'm going to go with Eric and Charles to find these kids and get them to safety. Wong nods as we watch Strange prepare to open up a portal. Charles says, Hold on. I'll read Eric's mind. See what the house looks like, and I'll share that thought with you, so you will know where to go. We watch as Charles closes his eyes, reads Eric's mind, and transports that information to Strange. We then see Strange open up a portal for the group to walk through. We cut to a farm in Iowa where we see a young adult man sitting on the couch watching Sailor Moon as we hear a call from the kitchen. Pietro, you are 24 years old. Can you turn off the cartoons and help me clean the dishes? The man is revealed to be Pietro Maximoff, played by Evan Peters, who laughs. Come on, sis. You know the deal. You're the responsible one, while I'm the quirky, energetic, happy-go-lucky, but lovable one. We cut to the kitchen where we see Wanda Maximoff, played by Elizabeth Olsen, washing dishes. Yeah, you can say that again. I'm the only one in this household who has any responsibility whatsoever. As Wanda puts down the dishes, she walks to the living room and glares at Pietro, who looks at her and says, "What?" Suddenly we hear a knock at the door, and Wanda goes to open it up. When she does, we see Eric standing there. Wanda begins to get tears in her eyes as she says, "Dad?" Eric begins tearing up as she runs and hugs him. Pietro quickly realizes what is going on and joins in the hug. Find out that while Eric gave up his children to live away from them in order to prevent them from potentially unlocking their mutant abilities, he would frequently visit them and send them gifts throughout their childhood and young adulthood. Suddenly, a massive blast hits the house as Eric, Pietro, and Wanda are knocked over. We see Strange using the cloak of levitation as he screams, "Eric, you get your kids out of here now." As we see Strange fighting with LaFay, Charles attempts to use his telekinesis to prevent Sefton from attacking. Watch as Eric grabs hold of Wanda and Pietro and begins running away from the battle, but he is interrupted when Agatha teleports in front of him. We see Eric scream as the ground around them starts shaking. We watch as the metal shingles from the home begin to float in the air, and he begins slinging them at Agatha, who is having a difficult time dodging them. We see Pietro and Wanda begin to scatter. Agatha takes note of this and screams, "Now!" Suddenly, we watch as LaFay abandons her fight with Strange and quickly teleports in front of Pietro and picks a piece of his hair off of his head and screams, "Got it!" We then watch as the three witches teleport away. Charles looks at Strange and in a whispered voice says, "They got it." We see Wanda run over to Eric as she shouts, "Dad, what the heck is going on?" Pietro joins them as Eric, lying on the ground, looks at them and says, "Things are about to change." Cut to a few minutes later as we see Strange, Eric, Charles, Pietro, and Wanda standing in a circle. We see Pietro talking. He says, "So, Dr. Strange, what's it like getting to work with the Hulk? That must be pretty crazy." Wanda snaps at him, "Pietro, be mature. This is not the time." "Your sister's right, son. Now, what can we do?" Strange looks down. "Well, the only thing we can do now is attempt to stop them before they can cast the spell that awakens the X gene across the globe. But unfortunately, we have no idea where they are, and we don't have any way of finding out." Charles looks at Strange and says, "Well, actually, there might be a way." We cut to Xavier's mansion as we watch Charles pushing his wheelchair down the hall of his mansion as we see Strange, Eric, Wanda, and Pietro following behind him. Charles explains to them, "This device is called Cerebro. It is a device that I worked on alongside my research assistant. It allowed me to expand my telekinetic powers and help me hone in my own skills. But it could also be used, potentially, to locate someone. The device expands the range of my telepathic abilities. Using it, I should be able to locate the witches. Anything that could work, we have to try. McCoy, help hook me up to Cerebro now. Time is of the essence." Watch as a young man in a lab coat runs out of a nearby laboratory and says, "Right away, Professor." The man is revealed to be Hank McCoy, played by John Boyega, and we watch as he begins hooking Charles up to a machine and places a metal helmet on his head. Eric looks confused and says, what exactly is this going to do?" "Well, I don't have the skills of explaining things quite like the professor, but it enhances his abilities to a point where his range is expanded further than one could believe to be previously possible." As Hank finishes setting up Cerebro, we see him run to a command station and click a button. We watch as Charles enters Cerebro for the first time. He searches around until suddenly we see Agatha, LaFay, and Sefton standing hand in hand around an altar chanting some kind of incantation. Charles returns to the mansion and screams, "Mount Wundagore, they're performing the spell as we speak. Strange, close your eyes and see." We watch as Strange gets a vision of Mount Wundagore from Charles and says, "Got it." We see Strange open up a portal as Eric looks at Wanda and Pietro and says, "You two, stay here until we get back. Understood?" "But Dad," says Wanda. "Understood," screams Eric as he and Strange walk through the portal, followed by Charles. We cut back to Mount Wundagore as we see dark clouds towering overhead. As we see the witches chanting incantations as suddenly the Darkhold and Agatha begin to glow as she says, "Awaken the mutant powers." We hear Strange scream, "No," as he dives into Agatha, but as he does, A glowing light shoots up in the air. We watch as around the world, the light begins hitting people, and their mutant abilities begin awakening. We then watch Strange and Eric begin to fight Harkness, Sefton, and LaFay. We cut back to the Xavier mansion as we see Wanda, Pietro, and Hank all standing around when Pietro breaks the silence by asking, "So, you must be, like, super smart or something?" As Hank begins to answer, we watch as the three of them are hit with the golden light. We see Wanda struggling. She looks over at Pietro and asks, "Pietro, are you okay?" Pietro is breathing heavily and says, "Yeah, but I don't think Hank is." As the camera pans over, we see Hank transform into a giant blue beast. As his transformation ends, he looks at the siblings and screeches. Pietro screams, "Run!" As he does, we watch as he face plants into a wall and says, "Ouch, what the?" "The gene," says Wanda as she looks down at her hands. We see that she aims her hands at Hank, who has been transformed into a beast, and suddenly red magic shoots out of her hands and stops him in his tracks. Pietro walks over as we watch her drop Hank to the ground, who says, "What the heck am I? I can talk? What's going on?" Wanda looks at Hank and says, "Don't worry, you're fine. But I don't think my father and his friends are. We have to help them out." "But how?" asks Pietro. As we watch Wanda close her eyes and begin to think, we suddenly watch a portal similar to that of Doctor Strange open up, and we see Wanda, Pietro, and Hank walk through. We cut between Eric fighting against Sefton, Wanda, Pietro, and Hank fighting against LaFay, and Strange fighting against Harkness. Eric is eventually able to detach two of the metal shelves housing Wyndham's work, and he uses them to impale Sefton, killing her. We see LaFay and Wanda engaging in a match of magical blasts. As LaFay comments, "You are powerful. That is evident, but you are unskilled. There is no way you can beat someone with my experience. I'll defeat you, and then we will seek to find the Scarlet Witch." As you see Wanda get pushed back from blast, she smiles and says, "Well, unfortunately for you, I have a team on my side." Watch as Pietro, using his super speed, punches LaFay in the face, followed by Beast knocking her to the ground and flinging her across the room. As she hits the wall of the cave, we watch as rocks from the mountain fall on top of her, and as a result of the impact, she dies. We finally cut to Strange getting knocked down by Agatha, who is still glowing, and screams at him, "We won, you lost. Now, you lose more than just this petty squabble, you're going to lose your life." As we see Agatha shoot a giant blast of dark magic at Strange, we see him shoot a smile as he says, "Shield of Seraphim." As a protective shield appears in front of him, it launches the blast back at Agatha. As she screams, dust settles, and she's nowhere to be seen, and is seemingly dead. We watch as Strange sees the Darkhold and screams, "Bolts of Baltok," as we watch a powerful lightning strike hit the Darkhold, causing it to shrivel up and dissolve. We cut back to the Xavier mansion as we see Charles looking at Wanda, Pietro, and Hank, who is transformed back into his human form. "The gift of hyperspeed, the gift of transformation into some sort of magnificent beast, and Wanda, I'm not entirely sure what your gift is, but its power is endless." As the three smile at Charles, Strange speaks up. "I want to apologize for allowing this to happen. It's clear to me now more than ever that I need to work harder than ever to perfect my craft. This world needs a sorcerer supreme who can control any dark beings such as Chthon. I'll be here to assist with the mutant effort in any way I can. What's the next plan of action for you two?" We see Eric walk behind Wanda and Pietro, and he says, "We're going to go have some family bonding time. It's only a matter of time before the government and society view us as outcasts. Might as well enjoy it while we can." Watch as Eric leads Pietro and Wanda away as Charles shouts, "Eric, humanity has changed. Please, work with me and we can ensure that these mutants are protected and not feared by humanity." Charles, "I'll never understand your hopeful attitude towards humanity. I wish you the best of luck, my friend. I'll help out when I can, but I feel it's best if mutants begin preparing for the worst. But by all means, Let me know when I can beat you in chess again. Charles chuckles. Not going to happen, Eric. Please, take care. And give the people a chance. As we see Eric and his children walk away, Charles looks at Strange. Strange says, do you really believe that things will be good for mutants? Do you think they'll be accepted? Charles smiles. I'm not sure. But I do know this. Countless choices define our fate. Each choice, each moment, leads us closer to discovering what that fate is. Thank you for your help, Stephen. If the rest of humanity is as open as you, mutant kind will be just fine. Strange smiles. As he opens up a portal, he steps back through to Kamartaj. We see Wong waiting for him as he says, the news is going crazy. What should we do? Give me whatever information you have about the teachings and techniques of Agamotto. This world has experienced things unimaginable for the last 3 years, and I intend to ensure that as long as blood runs through my veins as Sorcerer Supreme, she will be protected. Wong nods and walks away. As we watch Strange look out over Kamartaj, the movie ends. In the first post-credit scene, we see Hank strapping on Cerebro to Charles' head, and he says, Are you sure this is the right thing to do, Professor? Charles smiles. There are new mutants around the world. They're scared. They're vulnerable. They need to be taught how to control their powers. Taught to help make the world a better place. If I can locate them, we can start our journey towards a more peaceful society where both humans and mutants exist in harmony. Hank smiles as he activates Cerebro. We see a file sitting nearby which reads, The X-Men Project by Professor Charles Xavier. In the second post-credit scene, we cut back to Mount Wundagore as we watch the Darkhold reform begin to glow. Chthon begins to speak. The Sorcerer Supreme might believe he's gotten the upper hand on me, but my Heraldess has awakened. It is only a matter of time before she realizes her power and comes back to me. When she does, it'll be the last time any Sorcerer Supreme interferes with my vision. And that is Doctor Strange Mutationmania. So yes, for all of...
So that's the video if I've passed out my Doctor Strange reaction. Yeah, I mean, can't spell my, Doctor Strange second titles. JTVideos, the Rebooted MCU PS4 Part 3. So tomorrow will be Part 4. So it'll be super excited. So yeah. So hope you enjoy the video. Make sure to thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.